is every parent's dream for their children to grow up healthy, strong, and ready for the world. For them to live a life where they have opportunities to fulfill their dreams and become the best that they can be. And for children to fulfill their potential, they need to have the proper care and nurturing so that their growth and development are unhindered. Parents and ECCD service providers play an important role in ensuring that all of the child's needs are being met. One of the tools that adults can use to ensure that the child is developing adequately is the Early Childhood Care and Development Checklist. Developed for the needs of the Filipino child, the ECCD Checklist is a result of a carefully conducted survey of Filipino children in the urban and rural areas of the country. Monitoring tools such as the ECCD Checklist are important so that parents and ECCD service providers know where the child's growth and development are in relation to specific developmental domains. With this kind of knowledge, adults can implement the proper and developmentally appropriate learning for the child. The child's first 4 years are the most crucial in their life. Growth and development at this age are at their most rapid, with many changes happening. The ECCD checklist measures these changes through the different developmental domains, namely gross motor, fine motor, self-help, receptive language, expressive language, cognitive, and social-emotional. To obtain a more accurate understanding of a child's development, monitoring should be done regularly, according to the recommended schedule. The ECCD checklist contains 3 major sections: pre-assessment, assessment, and post-assessment. During the pre-assessment, the ECCD checklist is presented to the parents and its purpose explained. Materials needed for the assessment should also be prepared before the actual assessment. When administering the ECCD checklist, make sure that the child is in a location where he is comfortable, relaxed, and feeling secured in a familiar setting. If the child is not feeling well, it is better to postpone the assessment for another time. Assessment is done one-on-one and should not take more than 45 minutes. There are 2 types of checklists. Child's Record 1 is for children aged 0 months to 3 years old, while Record 2 is for children aged 3 years and 1 month to 5 years old. Child's Record 1 has an infant section for babies up to 1 year old, and an optional starting point for children aged 1 year and 1 month up to 3 years old. Both records are divided into the 7 major components of the child's developmental domains. Before you begin the assessment, fill up the child's socio-demographic profile on the first page of the record and compute the child's age. To compute for the child's age, subtract the birthday from the date of the assessment. When the day and the month of the assessment is a higher number than the day and the month of the child's birth, follow the simple computation. Begin with the day column. Since 12 is less than 17, borrow from the month column. 1 month is equal to 30 days, and adding 30 to 12, you now have 42 days. Subtract 17 from 42, leaving you with 25 days. Since you borrowed the month, you're now left with 2 months, which is still less than 5. Borrow a year, or 12 months, so that you have 14 months. Subtract 5 from 14, and you're left with 9 months. Moving on to the year column, subtract 1 year, so that it's 2018 minus 2016 for 2 years. In this example, the child's age is 2 years, 9 months, and 25 days. Follow the instructions in the material or procedure column of the checklist. There are 3 ways to assess the child: through observation, direct elicitation of the behavior from the child, and the parent's report. If the behavior or response is observed in any of these three methods, put a check in the column labeled present. If it is not yet present or cannot be observed, put a hyphen. Write down remarks and comments in the last column labeled comments. For items that require the parent's report, conduct the interview with them after the assessment. When using the Child's Record 1, administer all items in each domain under the infant section and continue on to the next section. Stop only after 5 consecutive items in each domain have been marked with a hyphen. For infants 1 year old and onwards, start with the optional section if you observe that they are able to do the items enumerated in the infant section. If they do not display either of the first 2 items in the optional section, administer all the items in the infant section. If you skip the infant section, you will still need to put a check on the items in that section and count them to get the score for each domain. For Child's Record 2, administer all items to the child, placing a check mark when they are able to comply or a hyphen when they can't. You should always write down comments, especially for items marked with a hyphen. When conducting the assessment, make sure to remember that how you respond affects the child. Avoid making comments or showing facial expressions and gestures that show whether a child is doing well or not. Do not give remarks that will embarrass and humiliate the child. Also, never threaten the child if they do not want to cooperate. Be encouraging, as some children may be capable of performing certain tasks but need a little coaxing. Remind the child that they are not expected to succeed all the time. To find out the child's score in the ECCD checklist, tally the number of checks in each domain and record the total in the section Total Score. For Child's Record 1, do not forget to include the checks indicated in the infant section that are considered present if they were not administered. Write down the scores on the column labeled Raw Score, which is found on page 21 of Child's Record 1 or page 18 of Child's Record 2. Refer to the table of scaled scores and standard scores, where you will find the scaled score that corresponds to the child's raw score according to their age. Get the scaled score and write it down in the column labeled Scale Score, and then plot the number on the chart found on page 22 for Child's Record 1 and page 19 of Child's Record 2. Add the scaled scores across the 7 domains. Ideally, the sum should not be less than 7 or more than 133. With your sum of scaled scores, refer to the standard score equivalent of sum of scaled scores table to get the child's standard score. Plot the standard score on the appropriate graph. Scaled scores range from 1 to 19 and are interpreted as follows. Standard scores are interpreted as follows. After the assessment, it is necessary that ECCD service providers meet with the parents to discuss the child's assessment results and give recommendations that may be done at home. If a child receives a score that is below the desired range, follow-up assessments or evaluations by medical and non-medical specialists may be needed, as well as the necessary interventions to help the child's optimum growth and development. The ECCD checklist is just one of the many tools that parents can use to ensure that the child grows and develops properly to live up to their fullest potential. Armed with the knowledge of where the child excels and where they need support and assistance, adults can better meet what the child requires, which is a loving, nurturing, and responsive home environment. Because we are partners in making sure that Filipino children grow up healthy, strong, and ready for the world, we will be able to tap into the many possibilities that the future holds for them.